In this lecture, we're going to be talking more about motivation. We're going to find out different types of motivation and why those are important in online learning. So motivation is defined as the process that initiates and guides and maintains goal-oriented behaviors. That's a long definition. I'm going to write that out for you. That is a cumbersome definition, but it really does help us see that motivation needs to be goal-oriented. Motivation is really what causes us to act, whether it's getting a glass of water because you're thirsty or reading a book because you're interested in that subject. Those are both examples of motivation. Motivation involves a biological, an emotional, a social, and mental forces that activate the behavior. The term motivation is frequently used to describe why a person does something. For example, you might say that you want to run a marathon. So you decide which marathon you're going to enter, you decide how you're going to start your training, what days you're going to train, are you going to have someone help you train, are you going to work with somebody else? So all of those are the biological, the emotional, and the social forces that cause you to act. Motivation involves a biological, emotional, social, and even mental forces that activate behavior. So when you're thinking about running a marathon, you're probably thinking about, how do I get started? Who do I talk to? What books do I read? How many hours a day? How many minutes a day do I have to spend getting ready to reach my goal? The term motivation is frequently used to describe why a person does something. So if you're interested in running that marathon, then you have to think about, where do I start? What do I do today? The term motivation refers to factors that activate, direct, and sustain goal-directed behavior. Motives are the whys, or the behavior that needs to be done in order to accomplish the goal. And there's several different theories of motivation. One of them is the theory of motivation itself, and that includes the drive theory and the instinct theory. And so we're going to talk about both of those. First of all, the components of motivation. Anyone who has ever had a goal, like running a marathon, probably immediately realizes that simply having the desire to make it to that finish line is not enough. Achieving a goal like that, or even smaller goals, requires the ability to persist through the obstacles and the endurance it's going to take to reach that goal. There's three major components to motivation, and those are activation, persistence, and intensity. Activation involves the decision to initiate a behavior, such as starting your training to run the marathon. That training must be carefully enhanced and made more and more challenging each and every week. If you do the same lap around your neighborhood, or you do it by walking every week, you're never going to reach your goal of a marathon. The next part of motivation is persistence, as I just said. And persistence is the continued effort toward the goal, even though obstacles might get in the way. And adding a marathon trainer to your training might be something that will help you become a better marathon runner. But the obstacles involved in that might be the time it takes to work out with that trainer, and it might be the cost of hiring a trainer. So how would you get over those obstacles and increase persistence? The last part of motivation is intensity. And this is seen as the concentration or the focus or the vigor that goes into pursuing a goal. So, for example, one student might coast by without much effort. That person might start by walking around their neighborhood, and 3 months later, they're still walking around their neighborhood. But the person who has the intensity and the drive to reach that goal, the motivation to become a marathon runner, is someone that's going to start adding running increments to their walking. They're going to add longer distances, and they're going to build up their endurance. Let's take a minute and look at the theories of motivation. And there's really three of those, and I'm going to go through them quite quickly. I think they're important for us to know, but I don't want to spend a lot of time right now dwelling on theories. Psychologists have proposed that there are three different theories of motivation. And the first one is the instinct theory. The instinct theory of motivation suggests that behaviors are motivated by instincts. Some of these are already within a person when they're born. They're patterns of behavior. It may be past experiences or watching a marathon or knowing how important it is to get in shape. Those are all instincts that might increase your motivation to want to run that marathon. The next theory of motivation is drives and needs. Many of the behaviors that we all have, such as eating, drinking, sleeping, are motivated by biology. These come with us when we're born. We have a biological need for food, for water, and for sleep. And therefore, we eat, we drink, and we sleep. So drive theory suggests that people have basic biological needs. And that biological need here that we might be talking about is the biological need to keep our body in good working condition. The last theory is called the excitement theory. And the excitement theory of motivation suggests that people are motivated to engage in behaviors that help them maintain their optimum level of excitement. So if you have a real interest in running a marathon, for instance, you're going to be excited about it. And that level of excitement is what's going to propel you past the obstacles that you might face. A person that has low excitement might decide to walk around the neighborhood for the first few weeks and then simply go back to how they were working out before. So these people who have high levels of excitement might be motivated to engage in exciting, thrill-seeking behaviors, and finish a marathon might be a real thrill for some people. I'm going to finish this lecture on motivation by talking about extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. And I'll put both of those words on the screen for you. We'll be talking more about motivation in this course and about these two terms. But just to give you an overview and to prepare you for that, extrinsic motivation are those motivators that come from the outside. They might be rewards, they might be money, they might be trophies, they might be social recognition or praise. It's something that the outside world bestows upon the person who has reached the goal. The other term, intrinsic motivation, are those rewards that come from within the individual. It's the joy of finishing your first mile of running. It's the joy of getting through that finish line on the marathon. It's the gratification that we get ourselves for doing a job well. So we need to think about adding motivation to our courses. What do we do in a course that motivates our students? And how can we raise those levels of motivation? We certainly know from research, and I have done research myself on this, that the student who is intrinsically motivated has a much higher chance of completing an online class. But if we know that, are there ways, do you think, that we can change an extrinsic student to an intrinsic? That might be something you'd like to do a quick search on online and see what you can find.